And part of this exercise is, so if you're dealing with a premise location that, maybe you got 100 foot that you need to bury, and it doesn't make sense for the business partners or whoever's running the equipment to drag it off the trailer and set it up and fire it up and all that stuff. If it's 100 feet, we've typically seen these homemade, what we affectionately call Whompers, that are just, they must weigh close to 100 pounds, but it's very effortless when you want to go ahead and hand trench something in. It's a short distance. It makes way more sense than dragging the equipment out.
Yeah, those saw cutters are pretty spectacular.
Yeah. Initially, when we started doing our own experimentation on our own property, which on the right view, this is actually our little test site over at East Malloy. I couldn't find one of these things because they're handmade, most of them. So I had to fabricate my own Whomper and made a couple different variations, which was a very fun treat.
All right, so we're not going to critique your welds because
that's not mine. That's not my Whomper.
Okay.
This one's mine.
All right. We will make the public service announcement that you should still call in your locates because, to your point, those Whompers are pretty sharp. Yep. And when you put a good foot into them, they will cut whatever's under there, whether it be sprinkler or low voltage electrical lines or whatever. So make sure you get your locates done before you start whomping.
Even for this test, this test site that we own next to our warehouse property, we had to go through that same thing, calling it in. And it was just amazing. There was like 8 different utilities that, they were quick. It was pretty interesting to see. It was my first exposure to it, but there was mainline gas lines going through it, you name it, but they all marked it all off and whatnot. Because you just want to make sure that you know where you're planting this stuff.
That's right. So public service announcement, kids, call before you dig.
Yep. And so that's pretty much. Why is this not cycling?
Teams has been exceptionally difficult lately, so I'm going to go with that.
Let me just escape real quick.
You try your arrow keys?
I'm trying everything. I'm trying enter, arrow. I can't even hit escape to minimize it. Let me.
Right, so we are locked up.
Should I stop sharing and share again?
Yeah, give that a go.
So after if you've got something a little bit longer distance and it's approximately 100 foot or less, you typically pull out the Whomper and do a hand dig. But we have seen used 2 different types of equipment, plows or trenchers, whatever you want to call them. And this is the first one that basically has the plow blade here, and it has a piece of cable or chain on it that goes to this pull sock, a stainless steel pull sock that will grab the microduct to the equipment. And that spool stays stationary. You can't see it, but it's right about here. It stays at the side of the house. And the intent is we're going to pull it from the house all the way down a 600-foot driveway to the NAP location where we're going to make the final connection. Now, even from the business partners' own, after talking to them about this, when you pull this right from the get-go for the full length of 600 feet, you can imagine that the amount of resistance that you're going to create against this cable across that length as it gets buried into the ground is ginormous.
Yeah.
Not to mention that, to me, it almost seems like a pull to destruction test, because whether it's the 10 millimeter microduct, 3/4 inch or higher conduit, the larger diameter, the more resistance gets built up. And, they've constantly would say we'll pull till it breaks and then have to start all over again. or couple it together, or whatever they do. And the other thing I really don't like about this is that this end of the microduct, and it's sealed off with electrical tape, is going to be pulled the entire distance through the ground. And we got lucky because it didn't shove in too much of the soil into the end face of that. But I got to believe that, if they're not diligent on making sure that end is sealed up, you're just going to drive a lot of material into the duct, possibly clogging it up, requiring it to be cleaned out before you can even pull the fiber cable.
So I don't know how prevalent this is, but I mean, obviously that's one way to do it, right? But to your
Yeah.
point, it's basically a tensile strength test of your microduct.
It is.
And it may have started as 10 millimeter, but by the time they get done pulling that thing through the soil, it may be something less than 10 millimeter, just due to the nature of the deformation of anything under tensile strength, right?
Right.
So,
right.
there are other ways to do it. Obviously, you talked about the hand trenching with the Whomper, but there are other vibratory plows, right, where it places the duct into
Yes.
the slit right at the base of the plow head.
Yeah.
And so I got to imagine that that's maybe a more common way to do it, or into an open trench, during new construction, if that's the option.
Yep.
So this is a way to do it, but
Not a
probably
preferred
not
way.
the recommended method of burying microduct.
No, because I mean, if you're to your point about, stretching out the 10 millimeter when it gets under stress, what am I doing? I'm actually reducing the inside diameter. And when I go to pull the fiber cable through there, it's going to be a hell of a lot more difficult than I would if I had my dimensions intact, right?
Yeah, it would make it a little more difficult to couple too. If you were pulling it like from the nap to the house, by the time you pulled it up out of the ground, it may be deformed and may not fit the coupler at all, quite frankly, if it's been, pulled to a smaller inside and outside diameter,
Yeah.
then to your point, it'll make it a heck of a lot harder to get the fiber drop through it,
Yep.
then also introduce some potential problems in coupling.
Yep.
Okay, so not recommended.
Nope.
And if you do see that your microduct is slightly undersized, it maybe that's the way they buried it.
Yep. And it's noticeable. I mean, if the force is on it, you can see like the stretch marks of the actual microduct itself.
Oh, so we have a video. Okay.
Yeah, that's a quick one. And then so there's another video that's going to run on your left view that shows the process of actually being from the start point of the side of the house being dragged through. And when I start the video, I apologize, but about, I don't know, 3 seconds into it, I'm going to blow a dog whistle to make your head turn to the right to be able to continue watching it. So there's the spool. And we're going to go 600 feet in this method.
This is like watching a slow speed train wreck. So I got to imagine for the first, handful of feet, probably not too bad.
No, but as you go in distance,
Yeah.
we're going to go 600 feet down this driveway, and there's roots involved and all kinds of obstructions that over distance, that amount of resistance against the microduct just increases like tremendously. So again, not the preferred piece of equipment to be putting in. I don't care if it's microduct or even conduit. I just don't think it's appropriate for this application.
Yeah.
This is more of the preferred method of piece of equipment where the spool is contained on the equipment itself. And as it plows through the ground and opens it up, it actually feeds it through. So there's no force or stress on the microduct or any medium that you're putting into the ground.
Yeah, much preferred method. That vibratory plow, it just places it into the bottom of the seam that it cuts into the soil.
Yeah, and it actually tamps it closed at the same time. This little plate underneath it, it opens it up, puts it in there, and then tamps it down.
That is a nice machine. I wonder if I
Yep.
could borrow one of those for the weekend.
I'm already starting to lobby my girlfriend that I want one just for the sake of having it because it's cool and
It is very cool.
it's completely remote controlled. Let me see if I can play this one.
Really?
Yeah, he's just got a little toggle and he's following it and he can change the location or whatever, the route. It's a
Oh,
very
look at
nice.
that.
Yeah.
That's a good time right there.
Yeah,
I
it
could
is.
bury all kinds of stuff in my yard.
I know. Just for the sake of burying it, I would. I don't know about you,
Heck yeah, man.
but it is far less intrusive than that previous equipment. And I don't think like from our conversations with business partners that I think the vast majority have both. And I don't think we're getting that much pushback on not using the previous, but using something to this effect, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the preferred method. Plus, it doesn't leave a terrible mess in the yard the way,
No.
some of the old Ditch Witch trenchers or even, like a backhoe to expose a whole trench. Now, the other nice thing about this too is if the ground is relatively level, once you have your depth set, to your point earlier about the waves and the changes in sort of amplitude of the duct,
Yep.
it should remain a nice, consistent, straight, level path to minimize the pull force resistance as you're pulling the fiber through the duct.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, much preferred. If you do find one of these, let me borrow it for the weekend. If you can talk your girlfriend into buying one, I would replace my in-ground dog fence probably once a month just because.
They are popular. I've seen this used a couple times from a couple different business partners, but very nice piece of equipment. And they're small enough to where they, to your point earlier about they really don't chew up the yard. They don't, and you can get it, if you're running it close to a fence line, you can run it pretty close without,
Yeah.
It's just a nice piece of equipment.
Yeah, for cable nerds, that looks like a good time.
Yeah, it is.